Okay, so generally speaking, people will say that it is hard to relate to the coming of Mashiach. Because it's like a little fuzzy, it's a little vague, we don't know what's going on, we're sort of pretty comfortable in the world that we live in, and this notion of having a new reality is a little uncomfortable to us. But I have to tell you that no one would have dreamed that our lives would look the way they are 3 months ago or 2 months ago. In February, we wouldn't have dreamed that our lives would look like this in April, the way we're living right now. Yet the world has changed in a moment, in the blink of an eye. And just as that happened in the blink of an eye, so too, my friends, the world, the way we know it, the entire world, the way we know it, will be enhanced in the most beautiful way with the coming of Mashiach. It can change, it has changed, and it will change. Rob says, I want Mashiach now. Gail is in the here and now. Is Mashiach coming now? Absolutely. Marty wants to know, who is he? Marty, before I tell you who he is, I want to tell you what Mashiach is all about so we can understand what this era is about. And so Gail's comment is very interesting. Gail's in the here and now. It's very interesting. Yes, Mashiach is coming now. This is happening now. Let me just talk about this a little bit and explain what's going on so we get the right context. You know, there's a story of Hasidim, of the Alter Rebbe. Reb Hillel Paritcher was a famous chassid. He was there with the chassidim of the Alter Rebbe, and they were farbringing all night. They were singing and learning and discussing and engaging in the way of chassidim. They were doing a farbringing, and it went all night long. And they ran out of vodka at some point, out of alcohol, out of l'chaims. So at one point, the host or somebody said, "Go down to the cellar. You can get another bottle." Guy goes down to the cellar, and he cries out. He says, "It's dark in here. It's dark. I can't see." So someone else said to him, "Stick around a little bit." And you'll and your eyes will get used to it. Your eyes will get used to the darkness. At that moment, Reb Hillel, turning to the other Hasidim, he says, that's the problem. That sums up our problem. We get used to the darkness and we become comfortable with it. We've been living in the state of darkness for like 3,500 years. Once the temple was destroyed, 1,900 years ago, 1,900 and change, by the Romans, once our temple was destroyed and divinity was like concealed from us, it was apparent in the temple, we've grown accustomed to living in the dark. And for us, the notion of being able to having the lights turned on again is like scary. But once we realize that we're living in the dark, that's when we're able to realize, hey, it's actually good times ahead. We're actually going to go back into the light and we have nothing to be afraid of. When life was hard, it was easier to relate to the Mashiach. You know, when we were suffering, when we were persecuted, when we were tortured, when we had no money, it was a little bit easier to relate to the era of Mashiach. Today, life is good, and therefore we might not want Mashiach so much. You know, I'm comfortable with my 3 homes and my 4 cars and my, annual cruises and vacation plans. Why would I want Mashiach? But you know, when you really think about it, life isn't actually that amazing. You know, with our coronavirus going on right now and the anti-Semitism, you know, and Israel problems, life isn't actually that amazing. We want Mashiach not only to escape our problems, however, we want Mashiach for the extraordinary goodness, the enlightenment that the world will experience at that time, to embrace enlightenment. And that's what we're going to talk about now. Not only about running away from our problems, it's about turning on the lights and being able to truly be present in the wonders of our existence and the wonders and the kindnesses that God shares with us by having created us. So Rob says, I think he's on his way. Large locust outbreak in Africa at the same time as coronavirus, tornadoes and hailstorms in the USA. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Mashiach is absolutely coming. Biblical prophecies are absolutely coming true. I've spoken about them many times. You know, about the wings of eagles, a prophecy of Isaiah, which is certainly airplanes today. When you think of the airplanes that are parked in some of the airports in the world, they're lined up thousands and thousands and thousands of airplanes. Can you think of them as eagles that are ready to take us back to the promised land? Think about that for a moment, about all these airplanes. Thousands of airplanes that are down jets that are not flying. They're all just parked back to back, you know, whatever, head to toe. And they're waiting to literally be ready at a moment's call to pick us up and take us all to the Holy Land. Can you imagine how that would be the fulfillment of a biblical prophecy that sounded ridiculous up until 100 years ago, till the Wright brothers, right, invented air flight, right? We thought that flying on the wings of eagles would be impossible. And all these other biblical prophecies of the resurrection of the dead, cloning, healing illnesses. Immortal life. How far is that from, as scientists keep on extending life? Who knows? We're getting close. So that's the reason why the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of the Hasidic movement, established the feast of Mashiach, the meal of Mashiach, for us to have in the last hours of Pesach, which is, remember, the first days of Pesach commemorate the Exodus from Egypt. Back then, the last days of Pesach, the last 2 days, commemorate the Exodus from this current exile with the coming of Mashiach. And the last few hours, we have the meal of Mashiach for us to be able to meditate and contemplate and actually ingest this belief and to relate to it better. The way we do it is by eating matzah. We wash our hands and we eat matzah in the last few hours, and we talk about Mashiach. It was the Rebbe Rashab, the 5th Chabad Rebbe, about 100 years ago in 1906, who added to this custom of the Baal Shem Tov to also have 4 cups of wine. We drink 4 cups of wine at the meal of Mashiach, just like we had 4 cups of wine at the Exodus from Egypt, so too 4 cups of wine with the Exodus of this current exile. Those 4 cups represent the 4 promises that God promised us to take us out of this exile, out of that exile in Egypt. So too, He promised to take us out of this exile as promised to us in the Torah, and we actually drink that. For the DIY of the Passover, of the Feast of Mashiach, all you need is matzah, wine, 4 cups of wine, and good energy. When do you do it? Is in the last hour or 2 of Pesach, of Thursday. So let's say Thursday, 7 p.m. would probably be a good time. Maybe 6:30 p.m. would be a good time to start your Passover Seder. Who do you have? Whoever's there. If it's just you, then it's just you and Hashem. You're never alone. A Jew is never alone. Just have privately with Hashem. I was talking to my grandfather the other day, Hannah's grandfather, about his Passover Seder. He told me it was a private audience between me and God. He's not going anywhere with this coronavirus outbreak. He's in his 80s and he should be gesund and strong, and he's not going out anywhere. He just had a private Seder with God. The way you do it is you wash your hands 3 times on the right and 3 times on the left with a cup that covers your entire hand at one time. 3 on the right, 3 on the left. You make the blessing, Al Asher Kedeshanu Utzatav Tzivanu Al Netilat Yadayim. And then when your hands are dry, you say the blessing, Hamotzi Lechem Min Haaretz, you eat the matzah. And then you read about the redemption in the handouts that we'd like you to print out. They're posted here in Facebook, on Facebook and on YouTube. You'll find the handouts at the top of the page under Pesach handout. You can also find those printouts. The printouts will also be found on our website at jewishgardens.com/Pesach handout. That's jewishgardens.com/Pesach handout. A comment from Elaine. Important to be able to differentiate our vision from that of the Christians and Muslims. Messiah or Mahdi. Very, very important. The concept of belief in the Mashiach, as we're about to learn, is very, very, very different to the Christian or Muslim belief in Mashiach. This is not about Judgment Day. It's not about torture and suffering and revenge. It's about enlightenment. It's about higher consciousness. That is what's going on. Imagine your marriage. You have sometimes moments in your marriage that are unbelievable. Your relationship is so beautiful. You're connected. It's deep. It's perfect. You're relating to each other. You're deeply in love and it's intimate. And then you have moments that are downright horrible. Right now we're in exile. Our relationship with God is horrible. When Mashiach comes, the lights turn on. That's when we experience intimacy and purity and love and connection and higher consciousness with God. That's what it's about. Anything else is a Christian concept of Mashiach. Now, when Marty tells me the Gog and Magog, I've said this before, that there's actually a very interesting commentary about, I think it was 100 or 200 years ago, that says that Gog and Magog, which is a war, allegedly, in the book of Yechezkel is not mentioned at all as a war whatsoever. It's actually going to be a plague that will spread across the world. And that will be the precursor to the coming of Mashiach. So the concept of Mashiach, nobody knows exactly what it's going to be, but we are going to look at these texts together right now for a few minutes, about 20 minutes or so, to be able to understand what Mashiach is all about and how we can look forward to have a meaningful meal of Mashiach on the last hours of Thursday, last hours of Pesach, about 6:30 p.m. on Thursday. I would like to welcome Mark Gottlieb. Welcome, Mark. Good to have you with us, and Daniel Klein as well. I can't really tell who's on YouTube, but I can see on anyone who comments, so that's good. Any comments or questions, guys, please let me know. Now, when you washed your hands and you ate the matzah, you made a blessing, you're sitting by yourself with your wife, we're talking about these things. I'd like you to print out this handout so you can actually read through it at your meal of Mashiach, and it's going to be very, very meaningful. I'm going to go through those readings right now with a few commentary, and that'll be it. So read about the redemption in the handout that we printed for you. It's at jewishgardens.com/Pesach handout, or you'll find it at the side of this YouTube page or at the side of this Facebook page. Okay. Now, what you do is after you started the reading, I'd like you to intersperse your reading of the biblical and commentaries about the coming of Mashiach and the era of Mashiach with the 4 cups of wine. So before you drink your first cup of wine, I'd like you to make a blessing, Borei Pri Agafen, Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Borei Pri Agafen, which means blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who created the fruits of the vine. If you want to know the meaning of that blessing, I encourage you highly to go to study this meditation and prayer with me. Go to youtube.com/Jewish Garden, and at the top of the page, you'll see a playlist. You click on meditation and prayer. There's about 10 lessons, which will help you read, understand, and meditate on this blessing. That's meditation and prayer. Go to youtube.com/Jewish Gardens. Click at the top of the page where it says playlist, and you'll see the playlist called meditation and prayer. Go through those classes, and you'll be able to truly meditate on this beautiful blessing of Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, Borei Pri Hagafen. And you do that, you drink the first cup, and you intersperse your 4 cups. You only make one blessing through the 4 cups, one blessing for all 4 cups. And when you do that, you just break up the 4 cups with the various readings that we're going to go through right now. Try to sing something, maybe a song relating to the coming of Mashiach, and make it more meaningful. And now we're going to take a look at these 6 texts, which are all about the coming of Mashiach. Just give me a quick second. I'm plugging in my computer. I'm down to almost nothing. Okay, we got power. Okay. Welcome to our cousin, Shmaya Futafas. Nice to see you from New York. Hope life is well in New York and that you're being very safe in that state. Okay, good. So back to Mashiach. Let's take a look at this first text again. If you haven't seen it yet, you can just click on the side of our Facebook page or YouTube page where you'll see the Pesach handout, or you can just go to jewishgardens.com/Pesach handout, where Ashley has prepared it for us, as she always does. Everything prepared so nicely. Text number 1 is from Isaiah 11, verses 6 through 13. We actually read this on the last day of Pesach, very appropriate. We read it in the Haftarah. And a wolf shall lie with a lamb, and a leopard shall lie with a young goat. That's a reference to, a metaphor to the peace that will reign in the coming of Mashiach. Can you imagine peace with Iran? Can you imagine Iran offering to help the Jews? And can you imagine North Korea? Can you imagine the Democrats and the Republicans working together to make the world a better place and to bring more purpose and engagement with everything? It'd be so amazing. That's the wolf lying with the lamb. The land shall be full of knowledge of the Lord as water covers the seabed. That's about destroying the world. You see, the word world in Hebrew is olam. Olam, and we've learned about this in the meditation and prayer classes, which I just spoke about. Olam means world, but it also means concealment, he'elem. This is a world of darkness. When Mashiach comes, the lights go on, and we're able to experience godliness all around us. Just like in the dark ages, they were living in the dark ages. They didn't have a clue. They thought that the Jews caused the Black Plague because the Jews had poisoned the water, because much fewer Jews had died than anybody else. What they didn't know is that the Jews are washing their hands like we always do before mitzvahs. When we wake up in the morning, after we go to the bathroom, before we eat, we wash our hands, and therefore we were cleaning ourselves from the germs. In the dark ages, they didn't know about germs. Today, we know about germs, but we don't know about godliness. A couple hundred years ago, they didn't know about DNA. They didn't know about electricity. They lived in the dark ages. And today, we are in the dark ages, spiritually speaking, of divine energy. And that's what's going to be enlightened when Mashiach comes. It will be, the land shall be full of the knowledge of God as water covers the seabed. By the way, the word in Hebrew, if you've studied the meditation and prayer class with me, the world will be filled with the knowledge of Havaya. It's not just the knowledge of God, of Elohim. It's the knowledge of Havaya. It's God's unlimited and infinite light. That is the light that's going to be revealed. Because right now we have the light of Elohim, which is God's concealment. What we don't have is the light of Havaya, which is God's infinite energy. Again, if you haven't done so yet, you can experience Jewish meditation and prayer by going through the 10 classes on youtube.com/Jewish Gardens. clicking on playlist at the top of the page and just playing the classes on meditation and prayer. He shall gather the lost of Israel and the scattered ones of Judah. He shall gather from the four corners of the earth. This is a prophecy of ingathering. In other places it says, he will gather the exiles of Assyria and of Egypt. Now, Assyria in Hebrew also means wealthy, ashir. And Egypt also means tight. What this means is that both the rich and the poor will be inspired to the Moshiach revolution. Not only the poor, who obviously need a change, but even the rich will appreciate the greatness, the majesty of this era of the coming of Mashiach. Ephraim shall not envy Judah, nor shall Judah vex Ephraim. There will be tremendous peace, Jewish unity, which is unprecedented. We spoke about that earlier. Let's take a look at the next text, which is from Maimonides. Introduction to the Mishnah Sanhedrin. Text number 2. Again, if you don't have this handout, you'll find it at jewishgardens.com/Pesach handout. And you can also see it at the side of the YouTube or Facebook page. Guys, if you have any questions, please feel free to comment. If you have any, if you think I'm like crazy, if you think I'm saying stuff that's just out of this world, let me know. I'd love to engage with you. I'd love to argue with you. You know that I'd love to argue. Okay, text number 2 from Maimonides. I believe with perfect faith in the coming of the Messiah, even though he may tarry, nonetheless I await his coming every day. This is the 12th of 13 fundamental principles of our faith. If you think, or if any rabbi ever told you that the Jews don't believe in the coming of Mashiach, that rabbi doesn't know what they're talking about. Mashiach is a fundamental principle in Judaism. It's in the Bible. It's all over the oral Torah, everywhere. And in fact, on the crossing of the Red Sea, which is the reading of the 7th day of Passover, that's tomorrow, which is what we're celebrating at the end of Pesach. We spoke about that at the beginning of this class. The song of the sea that the Jewish people sang was Az Yashir Moshe Bnei Israel at Teshira Zot. And then Moses and the Jewish people will sing the song. Then Moses and the Jewish people will sing the song. It's deliberately in the future tense because it is a prophecy about the resurrection of Moses and all the Jewish people. When Mashiach will come, they'll sing this song. It's not only a commandment for us to believe in the coming of Mashiach, we're actually commanded to eagerly anticipate the coming of Mashiach. Now listen to this. When a person dies, the Talmud tells us that there are 3 questions that every person is asked. 3 questions every person is asked when he dies. I'm trying to remember them off the cuff right now. Here they are, in no particular order. Kavata itim la Torah. Can you imagine? Are you ready for these 3 questions? You know, we Americans, we love to plan ahead. We love to know where we're going from here. Where do we go from here? You go on vacation. You got to know how to dress and how to behave and the customs and what do I need. Here's what you need for the next world, okay? 3 things they're going to ask you. Kavata itim la Torah. Did you establish permanent fixed times to study Torah? Number 1. You can do this every morning with us, every weekday morning when it's not Yontif. We'll be resuming on Friday again after Yontif. Did you establish fixed times for Torah study? That's one question, number 1. Number 2. We want to know, they want to know in heaven, if Tzipita Lishuata, did you eagerly anticipate the redemption? Tzipita Lishuata. Did you eagerly anticipate the redemption? The 3rd question is, Nasata v'natata be'emuna, did you do business faithfully, or were you a cheat in business? Good morning, Judy Schuster. Welcome to our Torah study. Were you a cheat in business, or were you honest in business? Those 3 questions. So the question really is that we asked when we died, one of the first 3 questions, did you eagerly anticipate the redemption? And that's why it's so important to experience the meal of Mashiach at the last days, in the last hours of Pesach on Thursday afternoon, about 6:30, to make sure that we can have our matzah and our 4 cups of wine and our printout at jewishgardens.com/Pesach handout. You know, there's a beautiful song on this Maimonides. Ani ma'amina, ani ma'amina, ani ma'amina. That's a haunting melody. With perfect faith in the coming of Mashiach. And that's a haunting melody. I'm not exactly the cantor, and you can see why. But this song was actually composed by a Mojitzer Chassid. His name was Azriel David Fastag. It was in 1942. He was on the train to Treblinka, on the cattle cart to Treblinka. Can you imagine? This guy was blessed with a beautiful voice. he realized that he was going to his death. I guess when they saw everybody was packed into the cattle cars and the Nazis were shooting anybody who was climbing out the windows, he composed the song Ani Mamin on the train to Treblinka to the gas chambers. And once he finished composing the song, he declared in a moving declaration. He said, "Whoever will promise me to take this tune to my mentor, to my Rebbe, to the Moshiach Rebbe, who is now living in New York, I promise him I will pay him with half of my portion in heaven." That's how I will pay that person. 2 young boys were on the train that time. They promised that they would try. They both jumped out the train at the window. They took this melody with them. They memorized the tune. At least one of them made it to Israel, and he sent the musical notes to the Moshiach Rebbe in New York. The Rebbe was so deeply moved. The Moshiach Rebbe was so deeply moved by the melody and the story of its compositions, and he told his followers, with this tune, they went to the gas chambers, and with this tune, we will march to greet Mashiach. Perhaps you can recount the story and with anybody around your Mashiach Seder, and you could sing the song, Ani Mami, Ani Mami. Maybe one of our listeners can post a link to the song. I'm sure you can find it online. If you just Google like jewishgardens.com, Ani Ma'amin song, I'm sure you'll find it. And if you could just post it to our comments here, that would be really nice so we can give it to our listeners as well. Okay, so moving along. We're moving on to the next text. Text number 3 is a little more meditative. It's basically a text that tells us, I'm not going to read this one inside. It's a little longer. This one is from the Rebbe. And the Rebbe explains that the word for exile and the word for redemption is exactly the same word with one difference. It's only got an aleph. The word for exile is gola. The word for redemption is geula. It's the same exact word with just an aleph. If you add an aleph, that's what changes it. How could it be that exile and redemption is the same exact word? How is it even possible? The way the Rebbe explains it is that the aleph represents God. The aleph represents God. And if you reveal God within the world the way we know it, that's when Mashiach comes. That is Mashiach. So Mashiach is not about changing the world the way we know it. It's about revealing the world, revealing the truth of the world the way we know it. So if you just go to the middle of that text number 3, it says, all of the positive elements that are part of our current reality will remain intact when the redemption comes. Only their exilic condition will be eliminated. The concealment of each entity's true inner nature will be removed, along with the enslavement to its worldly and material nature that results from that concealment. As Maimonides rules, do not presume that in the era of redemption, any facet of the world's nature will change. Rather, the world will continue according to its pattern. It will just be like you're in your house, but the lights are off. Imagine me living in the dark. Imagine you're living in the dark in your house for the past 50 years. And then one day, somebody comes in and turns on the lights. Like you're living in without electricity. And then one day, somebody turns on the lights. You're like, oh my God, that's amazing. I love it. It's my same house, but now I have the lights on. It's incredible. That's Mashiach. It's like somebody turning the lights on in your house, the world the way we know it. There'll be shopping, and there'll still be Cancun, and there'll still be Hawaii, and there'll still be beautiful places, and there'll still be the White House and Israel and the EU. Everything will be beautiful. The world the way we know it, but there won't be fighting. There won't be evil. There won't be ego. There won't be nastiness. There won't even be death, by the way. Very interesting, right? In Psalms 126, King David says, that when Mashiach comes, we will look back at our days today as if we were dreaming. You know, when you're in a dream, you think that it's real. During the dream, you think it's real. But when you wake up, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I thought that was real. That's what happens when Mashiach comes. We'll look back, we're like, I can't believe I thought that life now was real. We were living in the darkness. Like, seriously? We thought that was good. We were worried about the redemption. That's so weird. That's what King David says. We will have been like dreamers. That's the preamble to the grace after meals. When we say Shira Ma'alos, we'll say Az Hayinu Kecholmim. Then we will have been like dreamers. You know, this world looks like a jungle. We call it a jungle, but really it's a beautifully, perfectly manicured garden. It's God's garden. This is the opening words of the Rebbe when the Rebbe accepted the mantle of leadership in 1951. The Rebbe said, "Basti lagani achaisi kali, I've come to my garden, my sister, my bride," quoting King Solomon in the Song of Songs as he speaks about God coming to this world. This world is a garden. It looks like a jungle, but it's a garden. The reason it looks like a jungle is because you're stuck in the weeds. Get out of the weeds and see the beauty of the garden around you. It's stunning. It's absolutely stunning. We're just literally got our heads stuck in a hole on the ground, and we think that's the reality. And we've been there for so long, we're like, this is the real world. But if you literally lift your head out and you look around you, you'll see the beauty of the world around you. You'll see godliness apparent all around you. It's about waking up to the beauty outside of our hole. And that's why I want to tell you, there's nothing to fear about the coming of Mashiach. It's not a change to our world. It's just revealing the inherent beauty of our world. We got just two more texts to quickly review here before we finish. The next one, number 4, is from the Alter Rebbe from Tanya, chapter 37. The culminating, again, if you don't have the text, it's at jewishgardens.com/Pesach handout. You'll find it there. This culminating fulfillment of the Messianic era, says the Alter Rebbe, which will consist of the revelation of God's infinite light in this material world, depends on our actions in exile. By virtue of performing the mitzvahs, a person suffuses God's infinite light from above downward to be clothed in the physical presence of the world. Fascinating what this is saying. First of all, in beautiful words, Alter Rebbe is telling us what Mashiach is about. It's not just an end to anti-Semitism. He's telling us it's about the revelation of God's infinite light in this physical world. But so beautifully, he tells us that it depends on our actions. Specifically, so we make it happen. We actually bring Mashiach by our actions. But specifically as through a mitzvah. The word mitzvah means to connect. We connect with God, but also the object that we do the mitzvah with connects with God as well. So other religions make fun of Judaism. They say that Judaism is a very unspiritual religion. Because, they're into fasting, they're into abstinence. The Muslims don't drink alcohol. The Muslims fast for 30 days during Ramadan. The Christian priests don't have sexual relations. They don't get married. But Jews, it's our first mitzvah to get married. We eat, boy, do we eat and drink. We never fast for 30 days, ever. We're a very physical religion because the purpose of Yiddishkeit is to infuse holiness, not there, but here, to bring holiness down to this physical world. That's what we're trying to do. Good morning, Dan Gicher. Welcome to our Torah class today. That's what we're trying to do. We're bringing holiness down to this world. So when we do a mitzvah, not only are we bringing God's infinity upon us, we're bringing God's infinity into that physical object. So when you go to Cancun and you do a mitzvah, you're bringing God's infinity into Cancun or into Vancouver or into Johannesburg. You're doing that mitzvah there, and wherever you are, you're bringing godliness to a place that it never was before. This concept is manifest in the blessing that we make. Again, if you'd like to understand the meaning of this concept, take a look at youtube.com/Jewish Gardens and go to the playlist at the top of the page and find the playlist called Meditation and Prayer. We explain how every blessing that we make is Baruch Atah Hashem, Baruch Atah Havai Elokeinu. We say Havai Elokeinu means Hashem our God. It means God's infinity is drawn down to this physical world. That's what we're doing every single time you're doing a mitzvah. And this is the true meaning of Tikkun Olam. Tikkun Olam doesn't just mean helping old ladies cross the street and marching with Martin Luther King. Tikkun Olam really means fixing the world, making the world come to its ultimate purpose, which is true peace, lasting peace, true purpose, which is the revelation of godliness inside of this world, which is about us and God having a deep and intimate relationship, just like you and your wife or you and your husband, you and your spouse have a loving, intimate relationship. Imagine you haven't seen your wife, your spouse for 8 months. You're like in exile from each other. And then when you come together, you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. So every time you write a letter to each other, every time you send a text message, every time you send a gift, every time you engage, you're connecting like a mitzvah, connecting until eventually you become close enough to become one. That's what's happening when Mashiach comes. Our final text here for Mashiach meal, which is the last hours of Thursday of Pesach, from Maimonides this time, the very end of his Magnus Opus, Mishnah Torah, which is the encyclopedia of the entire Torah, the most brilliant work. We should always view ourselves as equally balanced with merits and faults. Actually, this quote is not from the end of the Mishnah Torah, it's actually near the... We should always view ourselves as equally balanced with merits and faults, and view the world too as equally balanced with merits and faults. Therefore, if I perform but one mitzvah, I can tip the balance. My own balance and the entire world's balance, and affect personal and global deliverance and salvation. Friends, this is not all or nothing. One more mitzvah will make all the difference. When CNN came to interview the Rebbe, I think it was his 70th birthday, maybe his 80th birthday, I don't remember. Probably his 80th, maybe, I think it was his 90th birthday. They came by dollars, CNN, and they asked the Rebbe for a comment, and the Rebbe said, bring Mashiach through a random act of goodness and kindness. Do random acts of goodness and kindness. One more mitzvah, random unconditional love. Be kind. Do a mitzvah. Study a little Torah. Light that Shabbos candle. Do a mitzvah. Push yourself one step further. When you do that, you will be experiencing extraordinary blessing, tipping yourself and the entire world to the coming of Mashiach. It's in our hands. It depends on us. You know how we look at the Holocaust and we say, why didn't they do anything about it? You know, and in the future, they'll look at us in coronavirus and they'll say, why weren't we being careful? Why were we not quarantining when they told us to quarantine? When Mashiach comes, they'll look back at us and they'll say, why didn't we do anything? Our grandchildren are going to ask us, Zaidi and Bubby, why didn't you do something more to bring the world to the ultimate purpose, to the ultimate perfection? It was in your hands. Why didn't you act quicker? Friends, that's what the meal of Mashiach is about at the end of Thursday. Thursday at 6:30 p.m. Take out your matzah. Prepare yourself 4 cups of wine. Experience the meal of Mashiach. To be able to truly experience liberation. Liberation not only from our technical problems, from our temporary problems, but a permanent liberation from all of our headaches. With the coming of the Mashiach and the era of enlightenment, the meal of Mashiach is a time to reflect on this new perception of reality. Friends, tell me if you have any questions or comments before we sign off over here, because that's pretty much a wrap from a beautiful conversation here. If you have any questions or comments, please do comment. Let me know. Good morning, Ira Jacobson. Great to have you with us. Are you okay with this concept of Mashiach? Hi, what do you think, guys? Mark, Ira Jacobson, what do you think? Are you okay with the coming of Mashiach? Are you comfortable with that? I'm not sure who else is still there with us. I see we've got quite a crowd here on YouTube and Facebook, which is terrific. But if you're there, folks, give me a comment here. What do you think about this coming of Mashiach? Are you able to celebrate this meal of Mashiach with me? I'll be home with my kids, and I hope that you'll be home with whoever's with you in your home to be able to experience Mashiach. Let's make this real. Let's make this year the year. Let's not talk about next year in Jerusalem. Let's talk about this year in Jerusalem. Let's make it a reality. Let's open our eyes. Enough already, guys. We've been suffering enough. Like Rob Berger said earlier, he said a beautiful comment. I want Mashiach now. He's done. He's ready. He's just ready. My Shviger, whoa, so does Mashiach with new inspiration. Good, Shviger. Thank you so much. I appreciate your appreciating. Thank you. I hope that our members, our community members, will be able to actually experience the coming of Mashiach. And Shviger, I hope that you also, at your Sudas Mashiach, you'll be doing it alone with my Shver, with your husband. Print out this handout. Take out, JewishGardens.com/Pesach handout. Print it out and read through it at your Mashiach meal to be able to talk about what this Mashiach meal is all about. I think you'll enjoy it. Let me know how it goes. Marty is there. Shalom. And Andy says, L'chaim, I'll celebrate this meal with Judy. Thank you, Marty. There you go. Thumbs up. That's what I wanted to hear, Marty. You are the man. And boy, do I miss you. But God willing, soon we will all be reunited. And I see from Haifa, Kobe is still there. Amazing, Kobe. Thank you, Rabbi. It's wonderful to be part of the community like I didn't leave a year ago. You should continue after the corona and let something good come from the corona. I love you guys. Kobe from Haifa, we miss you, my friends, and so grateful that you're still there with us. Comments are coming in. Graciela, thank you, Rabbi. Mashiach now. Daniel, I will celebrate as well. Daniel, you are the man, guys. Don't forget to please print this printout, JewishGardens.com/Pesach handout, so that you will have what to read and discuss at your Mashiach meal. David Rosen, is there anything we need to prepare for the Mashiach so we're so close, or do we just wait? You know, David, that's a really great question. What do we need to prepare? I love that question. Beautiful. Love it, love it, love it. What do we need to prepare? That's what we have to talk about at the Mashiach meal. What do we have to prepare? Are we ready? Well, I think some people, David, have actually packed a suitcase under their bed. You know, like you when your wife's about to give birth and you have to have like a bag ready to go. And when the time comes, you got to go. I've never actually had a bag. 8 kids later, we've never actually had a bag because Hannah is so chilled out. Thank God she doesn't stress on these things. So I'm blessed. But maybe have a bag. You know, the Rebbe spoke about having a tambourine. The ladies are going to celebrate with tambourines. Have a tambourine ready to welcome Mashiach. You know, there's a story about a guy who was teaching people about Mashiach, and the people he was talking to, they said to him, "You don't believe in Mashiach," and he said, "Why? What do you mean? Why did you think I believe in Mashiach? Where's your umbrella? If you really believed in Mashiach, you would have had an umbrella, because if he can come now, like you, then why didn't you carry an umbrella?" Interesting perspective, right? So David, that's a good question. I don't really know. You know, what do we need to prepare? I'm actually going to ask that question at my meal of Mashiach, David. I just want you to know. I'm going to sit there with my wife and kids. If Mashiach hasn't come yet, I'm going to ask them this question. What do we need to experience Mashiach? That's going to be a fascinating conversation, and I will see where that goes. Ed Hockman, I did that already. Print out. Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Stuart Levitt. Alina and I enjoyed your beautiful presentation. Thank you so very much for your beautiful comments. Friends, it's been real. I want to tell you this, that tonight we're going to be having a Mashiach, a pre-candle lighting, pre-Yontiv YouTube, Facebook Live happening tonight at 7 o'clock. If you can join us, we're going to have a story, inspirational story, and lighting the candles. We'll be lighting the Iskar candle then at 7 o'clock tonight. And also, we'll be doing a Havdalah ceremony right after the Mir of Mashiach at 8:30 on Thursday night. We will resume regular virtual Torah study Friday morning, 8:30 a.m., right here with our regular Torah study. Now that Pesach is over, we'll go back to normal. And let me see, more comments coming in. My Shviger, I think the question is more, how do we prepare spiritually? Okay, so my mother-in-law says you got to prepare spiritually. Okay, fair enough. That's really the answer, I think, to your question. How do we prepare? No. How do we prepare spiritually? If that's the question, then the answer is spiritually by doing more mitzvahs. You don't want to be caught, not fully dressed. You want to be caught ready. You have to learn about Mashiach. That's how you welcome the Mashiach. You have to learn about the Mashiach. I'd love to find a way to schedule time to actually have a regular class in the coming of Mashiach. I'd really like to do that. Maybe starting Friday, I'll incorporate a little section of Mashiach study. I think I'm gonna do that starting Friday morning. Now that Pesach is, if we pass Pesach without the coming of Mashiach, God forbid it happens. But if it does, then I think after Pesach I'm going to start at the regular study of Mashiach every morning. And it's interesting. Andy says you prep like you prep for a hurricane. You take it seriously. That's how you prep, says Andy. He's a down-to-earth kind of guy. You prep like for a hurricane. You think about all the details and you prepare for the unthinkable and you go out and do it, right? That's what you do. I love that answer, Andy. That is a very good answer, actually. Beautiful, Rob. When you die, you take nothing, but you have to take a suitcase for Mashiach. That's right, because when you die, you're going into a spiritual world. But when Mashiach comes, you're living a physical world. Remember, it's the dead that are coming to us. The dead are going to be resurrected, not we going to the dead. That's why you need a suitcase, because what do you wear? You got to have a clean pair of, Marty, see you on Friday. Rob Berger, I agree with my mother-in-law. It's not material preparation. Fair. Okay, maybe you don't need a material preparation, but okay, fine. So you don't need to inform your bank or your credit card. Maybe you do need to inform your credit card, actually. That could be interesting. You might need your credit card to know that you might be in Israel tomorrow. That's an interesting point. But definitely the preparation is spiritual. You need to be learning about Mashiach, understanding what this is all about, being mindful, conscious about the mitzvahs that we observe, praying with more contemplation and more connection, understanding how every single mitzvah that we do is bridging the gap. The final link of all the generations of Jewish history, and we're at the front and passing that baton to connect, to close the circuit, to turn the lights on, to bring Mashiach. That's what this is all about. Thank you, Rob, and my mother-in-law, my Shviger. And I think that's a wrap. So again, folks, thank you for joining me here. I wish you all a very meaningful end of Pesach. Let's not pass over the end of Passover. Passover is the yontiv of miracles. It's the yontiv of being able to survive against all odds. Pesach is when we were slaves in Egypt without any prospects of redemption. Yet God took us out with an outstretched arm and extraordinary miracles. The prophet Hosea tells us, Ki meitzeis chameret Mitzrayim, as the days of your exodus from Egypt are enuni flows, so too will I show you wonders with the coming of Mashiach. Very similar to the redemption from Egypt will be the miracles of the exodus from Egypt. In fact, the Rebbe explains that the miracles that happened when we came out of Egypt will be like nothing compared to the wonders that will happen when Mashiach comes. So just like it was when we came out of Egypt, without any prospects of redemption, God made it happen. Just like when we stood at the Red Sea, without any prospects of survival. This is worse than, having no way of paying your bills, and God finds a way to give you the money that you need. Standing at the Red Sea with the Egyptians in hot pursuit and having nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. And God says, keep on trucking. I've got you. I've got this, says God. That's what's going to happen with the coming of Mashiach. It's going to happen in the most wondrous of ways. It's going to be extraordinary. It's going to defy rhyme and reason and logic. And when it happens, we'll be like, wow. We just need to learn about it. We just need to understand that we are the ones that are going to make it happen. For some extraordinary reason, we've been selected to be the ones to welcome Mashiach. Let's not be caught asleep. Let's not be caught napping. Let's be awake and conscious. Just to tell you this, that the generation of Jews that died in the desert, the generation that came out of Egypt across the Red Sea, that experienced those extraordinary miracles, they didn't trust in Moses and God to enter the promised land. They said, God can take us out of Egypt. God can split the Red Sea, but God can't take us into the promised land. That is too much for God. And they didn't trust in God. The Arizal says that generation that died in the desert for 40 years, they will be resurrected. They will be reincarnated as the generation that will welcome the Mashiach. Friends, that's you and me. All of us. Rob, Marty, my mother-in-law, Bob Wordheimer, Gail, you two, Alyssa. Mashiach is coming in our lifetimes. We are those people that died in the desert. We've been in this together. We know each other. We're all old souls. This is deja vu. We've been through this together. Mashiach is coming. But this time we're not going to mess it up. Last time we messed it up because we didn't trust in God, that he could actually bring us into the promised land. We've been reincarnated so that we come back to this world for a tikkun olam, a fixing of the world, a fixing of our souls, a fixing of ourselves, that we can exhibit this trust in God and say, God, we know that you can do this. We don't know how. In fact, we don't care how. Blind trust brings blind blessing. That's the doctrine of blind trust. Bitachon. We trust in God. We know he's going to do it. We don't care how. And we are ready. That's what the Mashiach is all, the feast of Mashiach is all about. Just looking at the comments. Bob Woodheimer, I feel the tension of Mashiach. Thank you, Bob. That is beautiful. I'm excited that you feel that. Alyssa, thank you, Matt, Rabbi, Mickey. Only good things to you, Rabbi, and your family, and the entire Chabad family. Amen. And the Siegel Team Chag Sameach. Helen Alec, be well to all from the back of the bus. Daniel Gicher, have a wonderful Passover, everyone. I am going to sign off. Oh, there's some comments coming in on YouTube. Thank you, Rabbi. It's a wonderful, Elaine, be totally receptive. Yes, to be totally receptive. That's what it's all about, Elaine. It's all about being totally receptive and ready. Friends, I'm going to sign off. Hopefully, we'll see you later at 7 o'clock tonight. And I'm going to also, at 1:30, by the way, we are going to do a radio show on YouTube and Facebook with Mitch on Mashiach. That's happening today. It's at 1:30 on YouTube and Facebook. You can join us then as well. Nothing else to do, right? And we'll catch you later. Chag Sameach. See you in Jerusalem tonight. Good Yantiv.